Okay, we are now live broadcasting, and I have Tom of now. How do you say it? Is it Inanna or
Yeah, it's Inanna Boudoir.
Inanna? Okay, so I'm really looking forward to yours because you were one of the only apprentices that I picked pretty much solely based off of his portfolio. You're very in line with my work, and I think it's very, very sexy.
Oh,
So I'm
thank you.
looking forward to seeing what you picked out. So if you want to take over and we'll set you up on screen share, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, you should be seeing it. Do you see my Lightroom
Excellent.
window?
Yep, there we go.
Okay. All right, let's just full screen this as much as possible. This is Lightroom 4, so it doesn't completely fill the screen. It's got those little tabs at the end, but anyway, there we go.
Cool. Okay.
So, yeah.
Good. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to just tell me a little bit about the image and what you were trying to go for, what you think works, what you think doesn't, and then I'll give you my 2 cents.
Hold on a second. This is the okay. Oops. Okay, so that should be fixed. You there, Jessica?
Yeah?
Okay. Um, so yeah, this was from a session I did with a client. We actually started outside on a balcony. She was wearing her husband's racing jacket, and as sort of a transitional element to the next section inside, we did some shots from outside the window to kind of have a little bit of a voyeuristic feel. That's pretty much what there is to the shot.
Okay. Did you get exactly what you were after? How do you feel about the light and the composition?
Uh, I did get exactly what I was after. I like the light. I think it lights her well, and I think we've got enough in the environment. In level 3, there was actually a comment from Joni that she felt the background by the door and the rest of the room was a little bright. And then there was some additional processing on it that she was not fond of, and I took a look at that and thought both of her points were really good. So I did darken the background just a little bit and cleaned up the processing just to make it just a little cleaner look overall.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I I like the voyeuristic feel. I'm not really terribly fond of whatever is at the very bottom of the image. I guess it's like a table or something that's kind of cutting off pretty much the entire left leg and side of her lower body from her waistline. Especially if you have any kind of text or anything on the panties or anything that you're shooting in, like you can't leave it part way. I either would have edited that out or shown the whole thing, but I would have liked to have seen just a little bit more of that curve underneath. Um, with her arm on her hip, I like that little diamond space you have between her wrist and the upper hip and thigh, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the curve of her waistline as well. I think you actually make her a little bit thicker appearing than she needs to be,
Okay.
just because of the angle of the arm. I do like the sort of almost implied nudity. She's excellent side boob, which is wonderful. Same critique that I gave Darn. You have to be really careful with girls with long hair because a lot of times when it's down, it'll sever their head from the rest of their body, and you lose the illusion of slenderness because you have no neck. So something to do with that in the future when you're taking pictures like that would have been to just pull it all off of her shoulder and behind her so that you still have that, at least the front or the back line of the neck is always the rule. But you should see some part of it. Otherwise, her head's just floating in this mess of hair.
Okay.
Overall, I really like it, though. I like the composition. It has this very kind of sultry nightcap kind of feel to it that I dig. When you shoot in environments like this where it's meant to be very voyeuristic, then it should be voyeuristic. You have to give her something to do that's believable in the story so that it looks like you're sort of illicitly watching her. She's very posed in this shot. And it's not her body language as much as her face. I guess you have her looking up towards the light. What was the lighting setup here?
I was a single flash with a softbox.
Okay, and I'm guessing she's looking up right towards the softbox, ideally?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you had her turn her face that way so that you still got the pretty light on her face, but just had her cast her eyes down to her fingers, then it takes away the idea that it's a posed shot and it lends to the actual voyeurism of it. But overall, I think it's a really, really good shot. I'm going to give you commendable, which is 2 points.
Okay.
Moving on.
All right. So this is from just a little bit later. Actually, probably just about 10 minutes later than the previous one. Now we're fully inside the room. Kind of the thing with this shot was to sort of highlight the shape, her figure, but also kind of pay homage to her personality with the boots. They're her favorite boots, her husband's favorite boots. They're very rough and tumble people, so I didn't want to have something delicate like stilettos or something, which would be a little more traditional, I think, in this kind of shot.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about the lighting and the setup.
It's a single strobe with a softbox, probably just overhead and to the right of the camera.
Okay. And what is that a necklace that's coming between her cleavage there and kind of hanging off? There's like strings, or what is that?
Yeah, that's a necklace. It's from seeing more of the session, the necklace would be much more clear what it is. It's much more prominent in other images in the set.
Okay, very good. Okay, so there's only one thing that really bothers me about this composition, and it's that she should be shifted down ever so slightly, just because of the positioning of the two paintings and the layout of the lines of the image. She looks like she needs to scoot down, like just so that there's the same amount of space between the toes of her boot and the edge of the couch and the edge of her head, and it's so slight, but because you have all of that mess of hair, her hair goes all the way to the edge, but her toes don't. So I would have just centered her just ever so slightly more, but that's really, really nitpicking at it. I love the idea of the shot. You did one of my favorite poses. I'm not a huge fan of the hand bra. That's like one of those faux pas things, so it's always really fun to try to do an implied nude but get the positioning to look naturally. You probably could have dropped her back arm and hand and just had that alongside her body just so that it wasn't so blatant, like, I'm hiding my boobs, and just giving it a little bit more of a natural feel. But I love the little curve in her back and the separation there. Same thing, if you had just brought her elbow out a little bit more, we would have seen a little bit more of that back curve. Because the way that the eye translates visual right now, the thickness of her body goes from the very top of her hand all the way to the very edge of her arm that's against the couch. So it gives an illusion of width, and anytime you can make girls look thinner, they appreciate it.
Okay.
I like the boots. I like the idea of them, but they kind of, especially the front one, they're just, because she's so slender and the boots are a little bit thicker, they make the bottoms of her legs look thick and heavy, like they're very weighted. So I actually might have gone in and just liquefied or warped them just a little bit to kind of thin them out ever so slightly, specifically around the ankles, just to give them a little bit more emphasis on them fitting her legs. The front one in particular, anytime that you're shooting girls, you definitely want to point the toes, and that's really hard for girls to do when they're stretching that leg out, because the ankles and the knees only bend so much for her to be able to get it out. But I might have kicked that toe out just a little bit further on the heel, just to give it a really nice smooth transition. That's really, really tough though. Most of the time when I shoot girls in this position, they're barefoot for that reason. I would have got rid of the necklace too, because you can't tell what it is in this shot. If it was dead on and you can see it in other shots, that's fine. But if it's not working, it's not working. I would have taken it off, or I probably would have edited it out in post if I saw that. Anytime that you shoot girls from a side angle, one of the best, easiest tricks that I can give you is you take all of their hair when it's down and you pull it towards the lens, wherever you're shooting. All of it comes towards you, wherever you are, because it just makes it thicker and more luxurious. And, you know, big, thick bedroom curls are just a sign of femininity and sexuality. She's a little bit like weighted, and it goes out in front of her head instead of towards the lens, and she's got this little like bump thing going on that I would have just smoothed out. But overall, this is a fantastic image. The light's just a little flat. Like, you got enough of it that it's done, but it's not popping for me. Like, I think you could have done a little bit more, made it just a little bit more dramatic to really just play off of those sexy curves and lines. But overall, I think it's a really good image. I'm going to give you 2.
Yeah, I'm actually a little unsure why this particular file looks so flat. In my real Lightroom, I do all my editing on a different computer. There's a lot more contrast ratio, so I'm not sure why this particular save is missing all the dodging and burning that really brings out the shape. So I don't know.
Okay, so I'm glad you're saying that. So you saw that too, and some of that might just be that you're in a different version, and honestly, it might be losing even more of it because you're screen sharing, and then it's not calibrated to my screen, so we may have lost a lot of that. So if you did that, bravo.
Yeah, so I don't know why that is, but
okay.
Yeah, that's there too.
Okay,
next one. So this shot was actually a grab shot. Just I was getting her set up for another pose and stepped to the side and just grabbed this one really quickly, and didn't know how much I would like it until later on, so I didn't really spend time doing all the little things to perfect it, but I really like it anyway. Just, you know, mostly kind of a beauty shot, letting the body fall away into the background. One of the things I received comments on in level 3 was the background was a little distracting. It was a much brighter yellow, so I did come in and tone that back to take care of that. But otherwise, that's pretty much all. Otherwise, just a lot of retouching on this one to just try to make it as perfect as possible in the skin texture and everything.
Mm-hmm. I do like this one. I do remember it from the earlier one. I definitely like this edit a little bit better with it a little more muted. It's a good shot. The bra doesn't fit her quite perfect, and some of that is probably just because of the angle she's at. Sometimes that's really hard to work with in any kind of boudoir or intimate, because the more they move and different positions, it just, even if it fits them perfectly when they're standing straight, sometimes it won't. But the fact that it comes out that far is bothering me, and the way that you can work around that is to actually just have them put their arms underneath so that it supports them up. And it'll just kind of fill it out and help them fit to that. The angle, do you remember what lens you were shooting with on this one?
This is, I was shooting with Tamron 28-75. This was probably toward the upper end of that range, in the 50 to 75 range.
Okay, so obviously, whatever's closest to the camera appears largest. That's just general perspective. That's why girls always take shots like this, because it makes their eyes and their boobs look bigger and their waist look small, which is good. But here, it kind of alludes to the idea of her neck widening out to her head. I may have just compensated for that a little bit in Photoshop and just thinned out like directly under her chin just a little and pushed that back. Overall, it's a beautiful shot. The lighting on it is lovely. I love the catch lights in her eyes. You have that really nice highlight under her eyebrow. That's really pretty, and on the lips. Her expression loses it for me just a little bit, because she just looks a little meh. There isn't any real fire in there or anything really exciting, that's really grabbing me from her energy level. And that's a model thing, but also as the photographer, like that's our job, is to make sure that we're pulling that out of them. Overall, it's a really good shot, though. I may have just softened a couple of the wrinkles on her neck, just slightly. And I probably would have darkened at the very bottom corner, under the joint of her shoulder and into her armpit. I would have probably darkened that out just a little, because again, it's just giving this illusion of width that isn't actually there.
Okay.
Is she laying on a sheet, or does she have like a skirt on? What's the white underneath the bra?
Yeah, that's the bed.
Okay, so I may have just pulled her up just a little bit higher, so we could have got just a little bit more skin in the midsection. But overall, I think it's a really good shot. I'm going to give it 2.
Okay. Then we have this shot, which I was mostly playing around during a session involving some water and just the white tank top. It's a single light from actually almost directly opposite the camera. It's just a bare LED bulb. I just really liked the almost sort of abstract nature of this angle and all the texture in the shirt, and just the little hints of see-through to it.
Mm-hmm.
Then otherwise just tried to keep all the ambient light down so that it really was just these highlights and then deep shadows.
Okay. I really like the lighting on this. I think it's very, very pretty. It's very contrasty. It gives it a very fine art kind of feel. That's about where it ends for me, though. I think you lost it on the angle that you chose to shoot it. I think if you're going to do wet, that you almost have to either drench it or not do it. With it just at the edge, and because it's not quite in focus, it looks more like it was an accident or it was a stain on a shirt than it looks like it was intended. And as a crop, I don't think there's quite enough. If it had been wet down all the way, I think it would have clung to her figure a little bit better, because it kind of just fades off of off the side of the image. So it's not showing enough of her body to be a crop shot of just the bust, but at the same time, her shoulder looks really, really wide and angled. It's the same. It actually, because of the angle that it's shot at, the distance from the top of her shoulder to the end of it is wider than her waistline, which gives the illusion of height. And then I'm guessing she has her arm up and over her, but with the way the shadows are going, again, anytime that the light splits like that, it gives the illusion of it being like chunky. There isn't enough of her face, and you don't have enough of the neckline, so I can tell that's the chin, and I can see just the beginning hint of the lips and the bottom of the nose, but it's so far away and so minimal that you just lose pretty much all of it, and it's really just this big white shape. So it's not working for me, but I love the concept of the shot, and then I think that the light that you have on it is really pretty. This would definitely be one that I would tell you to go and repeat and maybe play with a couple of different angles and see if you could improve on it, because I really do love the idea and concept of it. I just don't think you quite executed it. So I think it shows promise, but I don't think you quite hit the mark.
Okay.
You are taking this like a champ, and I'm being extra vicious with you because you are, I think, my only one that really, really pushes in Boudoir.
Well, that's how it goes with critiques. They always sting for a second, but then they feel fine later, so I just keep that in mind.
Good.
So last shot here. Again, as part of a series, there's a whole thing involving the wine bottle and the glass. Just tried to line up just kind of an interesting kind of a storytelling shot about that, and that's what I did.
Okay. Again, I think that you had a good concept in mind. This could have been a really excellent storytelling shot. Maybe a little bit different background and light. I'm not sure what the white squares are behind her. I'm thinking the one off to her right is probably a window. I don't know what the one to the left is though. Um, and she looks like she has her arm maybe on like the back of a chair or something. I think you could have changed up the angle a little bit. She's obviously a little bit of a bigger girl, or you were using a really wide angle lens, but um, even when it's out of focus like this, you still have to pay attention to give the illusion that that it's a really sensual, seductive woman, you know, that's half a bottle of wine in kind of thing, and would love nothing more than for you to go put her in focus and undo that corset. And I think that we just missed the mark a little bit. Corsets are really fun because they immediately give any girl that hourglass figure. I think maybe if you had done a little bit of symmetry and brought the other arm down and had both of them on her waist, it would have accented that a little further. Or if you had turned her and almost done a profile portrait where we could have seen more of the curves and the lines. But for me, it's just not quite hitting the mark again. The lighting's really bright. It looks like she's in like a fluorescent room. My cat is attacking me. I apologize. I don't know, like I see Motel 6 instead of the Four Seasons kind of thing. I do like the little detail of the lipstick on the wine glass and the wine bottle, and that being the story. I just would like to see it maybe warmed up and played with the angles a little bit, and maybe not quite so shallow depth of field. Maybe just a little bit more, just to accent, because as soon as you start blurring, those lines become even softer and wider, which if you're working with a plus size model, it just won't work. So I think it shows promise, and again, I think it'd be another one that if you played with it and reshot it, that you could really just kill it as a theme.
Okay.
So, how you feeling? Are you okay? Did I ruin?
I'm fine.
Okay, good. I'm glad you have a thick skin. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where you are and where you want to be, and you know, just where you're looking to go as far as your Arcanum training.
Sure. Well, as of now, I'm a part-time photographer. I'm a little more part-time than I'd like to be. I'd like to be, well, full-time with it. I really enjoy doing it, and I guess really what I'm looking for out of the Arcanum is to just sort of take the next step artistically and just provide even better work for my clients.
Okay, so are you looking to go full-time with this, or you'd like it just kind of being a part-time thing? Okay, great. How are you feeling about your website and your online presence? How are people finding you? Let's talk about that.
Sure. I mean, I of course I have a website. I have online presence. Google search. I get traffic from that. Not a lot of impact on Facebook, but working on that.
Where do you find most of your clients are coming from then?
Coming from Google.
Okay.
And the only real problem with people coming from Google is that there aren't enough people searching.
Are they coming and filling out forms on your website, or are they addressing your Google Plus account?
No, they're going to the website and this one.
Okay.
And typically going through the contact page, which has, of course, multiple ways for them to contact me. If they want to call, some people do call, or send their own email, or use the form below.
Awesome. Let's go to your portfolio.
Okay.
Can you just, okay, so yours automatically scrolls. That's awesome. I love this shot. Why is this not in your top 5? Keep going.
Yeah, it's auto-scrolling, so yeah.
That one's really pretty too. Okay, so your next critique, you need to present a few more images and let some of your apprentices feed in a little bit more on what you're picking, because you have some really beautiful work, and I think you sold yourself short this critique, to be honest.
Okay.
Love that. That's a great cropped shot. Emotion in the face. We were talking about that. You're not allowed to pick your images anymore. I'm going to pick your images for the next one. Okay, so I think your portfolio is really good. Your website's nice and simple and clean, which is a lot of artist problems. Is that we like to spend 2 hours deciding on a curly font and putting way too much information. How often do you update your blog?
Once or twice a week. Twice if I'm doing good. Once
Okay.
if I get lazy.
Blog is something that is definitely one of those do as I say, not as I do things for me. I have a really hard time keeping up with mine. Um, where are your rates at as far as what you're charging? Are they where you want them to be? Are you looking to go a little more high end or higher volume? Let's talk about a
Um,
business plan.
yeah, no, my rates are way, way lower than I want them to be.
Okay.
Um, and as far as raising them, I'm just not sure how to really get my work in front of the audience for whom that is a sufficient value proposition. Yeah, I'm sure we
Okay.
all have that
Well,
experience of getting too many price shoppers. I'm just not sure how to move the marketing in the right direction.
okay. Well, the first thing is to figure out who is your actual client. And then you can figure out how to market to them. A lot of times people just kind of leave it at, I want this high-end client, or I want these affluent zip codes, and they pay way too much attention to the money, which is actually the most backward thinking that you can possibly do, because I'm sure that if I say, what's the last thing you bought that you couldn't afford, you can probably come up with three off the top of your head. You know, people don't buy because they have money, they buy because they see the value in the product. So it's with this kind of portrait photography, because it's so intimate and it's geared towards women who make the majority of the financial decisions in the households anyway. You're not selling just the portraits, you're selling the whole experience for them. And that can be a really, really powerful thing. In my experience, when women come in, they're coming in for themselves or they're coming in for their partner. And that's pretty much it. So I have a lot of women that come in that are just not feeling very confident and sexy. I have a lot of, of moms of young children coming in that are so in the mom role that they can't remember what it feels like to just be a sensual woman. And I have a lot of girls that come in to, provide a gift for their boyfriend or their husband, or I have a husband that calls and wants to get a gift for his wife because she's kind of struggling with that a little bit more. So understanding why they're buying is more important than selling them on what they're buying. If you spend some time with them and really figure out why it is that they're interested in coming in for a session, then you understand where the value lies for them, and selling that to them is what gets them to want to pay the upgraded prices. So when I started, I was like, oh, you can come in for a session and I have a makeup artist that will do your hair and makeup, and then we will have a session and you will get 10 images in digital on a disc. Product, what. And I charged $250 a session when I started. And I thought that that was a lot of money, and it wasn't. Now when they come in, I don't tell them prices, I don't talk about products or books, I talk about them, and I get a feel for who they are and why they're coming in. Because, if she says to me, I don't have the body that I used to have, I have 3 kids now, I just can't remember the last time I felt sexy, then we deal with that, and it almost becomes like a therapy session beforehand to kind of work them into it. Because basically they take days, weeks, months to form a bond of trust with a partner or a lover in order to get comfortable taking off their clothes, and you're asking them to build that with you in 10 minutes. So you have to be 10 times as good as whoever they're with, which is no easy task. So if you can start building that before they come in and really sort of hone in on what it is about them and why the session with them is catered to them specifically, and that it's not a one size fits all, people will pay a premium for that experience of feeling like it's just about them and no one else. Like they are the only client that you possibly have, which is why the clients that come into me now drop easily 4 figures when they're in the studio, because it's not just the hair and makeup and it's not just the pretty pictures. The pictures are actually an afterthought. It's how they feel when they leave the studio. So everything that you're designing from the moment they initiate contact has to be about luxury and confidence and just being pampered, and you have to be like a 5-star hotel and a spa and an amazing custom artist all rolled into one every single moment that they are experiencing any kind of connection with you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so what you want to start with then, if you're looking to kind of hone in and really start building your brand, is what that means for you and where that lies for you. So it's actually a lot like dating. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to go, this is the kind of girl that I want, you know? And if you are, say, the kind of guy that would show up to a first date with flowers and chocolates, then you have fresh flowers on the table when they come in, and you have, you know, a little crystal candy dish full of decadent chocolates. And it's those little details that just subconsciously in their mind reinforce the fact that they are paying for quality, which is totally different than if they just come into a room with a studio backdrop and lights set up, because they can get that at Sears or at Picture People. That doesn't say quality, that says quantity, which there's nothing wrong with that. It just depends. It has to be consistent with what you want your business to be. Now, do you shoot in your own studio, or do you go to them, or you run a hotel? How are your sessions set up?
Used to work in my home studio, but my wife has since forbidden that, so it's in hotels for the moment.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
I think there are positives and negatives to that. I think when you're in one place all the time, there does end up being a little potential for a lack of variety from session to session. And working in especially different hotels, you always have kind of a different look, and everyone gets really their own experience that isn't just the same backdrops as everyone else. But of course, it's a lot more complicated to have to deal with carrying lighting equipment and everything, and it does limit some shots I would probably like to be doing that do involve a little bit more of a more studio look rather than just an environmental look. So there's pluses and minuses, but I don't have the option of just having a studio right now. So I just got to work with it as I can until things change.
Okay. Well, I definitely think that you can work with it. And a lot of hotels actually, like, have you really networked well with any of the hotels that you are using and tried to, like, build some kind of network or business partnership where it's benefiting them as well? Like, you should definitely know the names of all the behind the scenes people at the hotels that you're working at.
Yeah, for most of the ones that are actually in Iowa City, yeah, we have, but they don't. They actually intentionally don't make any business relationships with photographers. So there's a very limited set that that if they're not willing to really do anything, then there's really nothing for me to do. So.
And I'll agree with that, and I think that part of that comes with the explosion of digital and the fact that you are probably one of 50 photographers contacting them on a daily basis. And as much as I hear our industry give a hard time about how nobody values us and everybody wants things for free, I can't tell you how often I hear photographers doing the opposite and going, well, I'll give you the images and you can use them for promotion and this will be really good for you. And they do it in reverse, and I don't think they even realize that they're doing it. So it has taken me quite a while to form some of the relationships with different vendors that I've wanted, from stylists to other people, just because everybody approaches them going, oh, I'm a photographer now, and some of them, the quality of the work does not warrant them approaching so far above their league with the intention of it just being, a non-monetary investment for them, because these people, this is their livelihood too. That said, I'm a big believer that if you want to work with sponsors and you want to work with vendors and you want to form relationships, that you don't go into that with the intention of forming a business relationship that benefits you. I would be thinking of 10 different ways that you being involved with them benefits them. And you have to do that without any intention of it ever being reciprocal, because when they see that you are benefiting them, then they are much more inclined to form a bond with you, and they are much more inclined to be open to anything that you need. And really what you do at that point is you're not building networking, you're building friendships, and friends are always willing to do more for you than a business associate is. So I would be definitely being chummy with everyone. You know, it's a good idea to send thank you notes to whoever your liaisons are in these places. It's a good idea to write reviews on their social media profiles and stuff so that they can see that their business is coming from you. Make sure that if you're doing that, that in time, and you know, non-photography related too, when one of your friends goes, hey, I'm coming to visit, I'm looking for a good hotel, and you recommend one of the hotels that you shoot in, make sure that when they call that they mention your name. I heard about you from. And that shows them that you're not in it for yourself. So if you start doing that regularly, even if they're not forming relationships in a business sense with you, if they know your name and they know that you're coming in frequently, then the girl behind the counter, or you know, the guy that's handling all of the bookings or whatever, when his friend or sister's cousin's third niece twice removed goes, oh, I was thinking about getting intimate portraits, you're going to be the name that comes to mind, even if it's not a formal agreement or them selling you. So that is how all of my business happens, and most of it is all through Facebook now. So things to think about. But as far as like your work, I think that you have a very good consistent quality. I'm watching your images go back and forth on the screen in the slideshow, and we can turn off the screen share now and kind of go back. But I think what you need to be looking at is where you want your business to go in the next couple of weeks or months as we're going through towards the first sphere of mastery, because you're going to do this again before you cross level 10. And the images should have consistency. They should work well as a portfolio and as individual pieces. They should be the kind of work that you want to shoot, and you should be able to look at every single one of them and say that they are absolutely worthy of the price point that you want to charge for a session. Whether that's $500 or $5,000 is irrelevant, or $50. I don't care where it's at. That's for you to decide. But the quality has to be there, because if you don't believe in your work, you cannot sell it to anybody else.
Right.
So how about you? Questions, concerns? What are you feeling unsure about? What do you need help with? What are you feeling we're not quite hitting on yet?
You know, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to absorb a little bit.
Okay, fair enough.
Our conversation today.
Good, good. Are you feeling good, or are you feeling discouraged? Because I was pretty rough with you.
I'm feeling fine.
Good, awesome. Well, I definitely think that you're showing a lot of promise and potential. I see no reason why you can't be at or above my rates by the time that we cross the level 20 and booking as much as you want. You know,
well, I certainly hope so too.
It is. It's just it's a matter of really figuring it out. And the problem is that a lot of people tend to do it chronologically instead of back planning, which I found is a lot more effective. So they'll go, oh, well, and they just kind of shoot out numbers that they think will work. Like they hear, you know, they'll come to a seminar or something with me and they'll hear that my average collection is between $2,500 and $3,500. And they go, yeah, I want to make that much money. And that sounds good. And they leave it at that, but they don't really think about how that's going to work. So really the best thing for you to do when you have some free time is to actually look at it, look at the job that you have now and the finance that's coming in from that and the money that you're currently making, and go, this is how much the lifestyle I want, not the lifestyle I have, the lifestyle I want costs. I would need to make X amount of dollars a year or X amount of dollars a month. Whether, again, whether it's $5,000 or $20,000 a month is irrelevant, as long as you know the answer for that, so that you can have the kind of house that you want and the studio that you want and the car that you want. And then you can start looking into, I just need so bad. Then you can start looking into how often you want to work, because it really does start to break down easily. If you say you want to make $10,000 a month and you want to shoot one session a month, then you have to cross that $10,000 line. But that's only 12 sessions a year, so that's not a big deal. If you want to do 10 sessions a month, then it's only $1,000 that you have to do. And it sounds way more achievable to say, oh, well, I want to shoot 10 days a month at $1,000 a session and make $10,000 a month, as opposed to just going, I can't make $10,000 a month. That's way too much money. Nobody makes that. And same thing, if you don't have, children and another job, and, you have more flexibility with your schedule, and you go, well, I can work 20 days a month because I love being in my studio and I can turn out the images fast. Then you only need to make $500 a month. So you just start taking all of these things into comparison, and then the numbers follow that. A lot of times people pick their numbers and then try to build their business around the numbers instead of the other way around. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I actually know all those numbers that I'm looking for. It's just a matter of getting my work where I want it to be to justify to myself the rates I want to charge. Okay. I think that from my point of view, my work more than justifies the rates I am charging, but it's just a matter of, I guess, helping clients see that. And I think maybe I'm a little falling down on that part, is communicating the value of it.
How much is your average session going for right
now? Total gross is about $1,250.
Okay. And where are you looking for it to be at?
I'd probably be looking more at the 3,000 range per session.
Okay. So as it is right now with them at 1,200, what are they getting for that? What's a session with you look like?
Well, it's about a 2 or 3 hour session. We generally do about 5 different looks, and that comes then with a really nice album.
Okay. How many images are they getting in that album?
Around 25, though some of them are sort of variations in sequence rather than, standalone images.
Right. Okay. So hair, makeup, are they doing that themselves? Or are they getting that with you?
We can arrange for hair and makeup. We don't force them to do it. And in terms of our averages, it hasn't had any impact whether they've had someone come in or not. Okay,
so the first thing that I would recommend for you is to find a good makeup artist and put that in your session and include it complimentary. So you don't do it as an add-on. You don't say it's $1,000 to come in for a session and it's $1,500 if you would like, the talents of our hair and makeup artist, because then you'll have people sort of barter with it, and they weigh whether they want to invest that extra money versus whether they want to have a professional do their hair and makeup. Most girls are pretty decent at doing their own hair and makeup, but it's totally different doing their own hair and makeup to go out than it is the way a makeup artist does it for a photo shoot, and it will make a huge, huge impact on your images. Aside from the impact that it makes visually, finding a good makeup artist that is talented and is friendly and warm, that is the first person that they're coming into contact with you, which can really, really just sort of reinforce the quality of your brand. I absolutely adore and love my makeup artists, both of them that work with me all the time, and I love that they are the first person. Plus, it just adds a different level of credibility as far as the amount that they're investing in you when you say, I have a full-time hair and makeup artist that's provided complimentary for the session. So whatever you're going to charge your makeup artist, like let's say you have makeup and a hair girl and it's an extra $300, then you wouldn't be charging $1,250, you'd be charging $1,550 for the total price. Now, if they make an argument with you where it's, well, my sister's a hair and makeup artist, I really don't like having people, do my makeup besides me, I'd like to do it myself, can I do that? Sure, absolutely. It's a complimentary service included. But you're welcome to do it yourself. So because it's not an add-on, it doesn't change the price. 98% of the time, my clients will choose to go with my professional hair and makeup artist, which I know will do their hair and makeup to suit the kind of imagery that I do, and they understand the way that I shoot and the retouching and what I'm looking for, which reinforces my style. If they really, really push it and they really want somebody else to do it, or they want to bring their own or do their own, then you make an extra $300 that day and your makeup artist gets the day off. See how
Sure.
that works? So
Makes sense.
I would definitely recommend that for the borrowed credibility of and just like the added emphasis that you're doing well because you have people working with and for you, and for the quality that it adds to your imagery, and honestly for the quality that if they aren't adding it, that you're just upping your end line for the day. That's a really quick way to add it on. Like I said, 98% of my people choose to go with my hair and makeup artist, which I'm more than happy to do because she just does beautiful, consistent work all the time for me. And it can just make a really huge difference. Along with that, how many different products are you offering?
Well, 4. There are 2 albums, folio box if they want something more individual prints rather than the album, or wall portraits, which we typically do on metal.
Okay.
So
And
it's a pretty simple price list.
good, and it should be. I wouldn't recommend any more than 3, maybe 4 items tops. Just because any more than that, they start to get confused, and confused buyers end up not buying anything. Do you offer credit cards? What are their payment options?
Yep, we take credit cards, so they can do it cash, check, credit card, PayPal. If they offered Bitcoin, I'd probably take that.
Nice. Okay. Do you have payment plans available, or are they paying for it all up front?
Most of the time, people are paying for it up front. A couple times, we do half and half, and nobody has ever asked us to do more than that, but we would.
Okay. So again, I think that if you're looking to really up your rates and get to that, say, $3,000 to $5,000 price tag, as opposed to, in the 500 to 1,500 range, payment plans were a huge part of that for me and I can totally understand, because if I absolutely love you and want a session with you, I can love it and want it all I want, but I might not be able to drop $5,000 on it on a whim. So the amount of time that people spend trying to save up for it is a severing between contract to contract. And the more time that lapses in between I want a session with you and booking the session, the less likely they are to book a session. So when they can come in and you can say, well, you're going to put this much down, and then we'll break it out into a couple of weeks or a couple of months, or however you want to do it. They may not be able to afford $5,000, but they may be able to afford $500 a week for 10 months, or or $500 a month for 10 months. And
Sure.
you can break it down like that. We do it no interest. It comes out on their credit card. I don't know which merchant account you use if they make that really easy, but we use GoPayment through Intuit, and I can literally just put their credit card in and set it up as a reoccurring payment that draws out on the 5th of the month or whatever, and it does that until the end date, and it's paid in full. And then, it's like anything else that you take out a payment plan for. Like, once it's set up, like, you just don't even think about it. It just comes off their credit card until it's done. But it enables a lot of people that probably wouldn't be able to invest that kind of money right at the moment to find a way to afford it. So there's nobody that can't afford me, because I will just work with them until we find something that does work. And when they have a product and the artistry that they really love from you and they're having a good experience, then they will pay whatever you want them to pay, as long as you find a way to make that a feasible thing for them with all of their other finances. So all things to consider.
Definitely.
Cool. Any other questions?
Nothing really is coming to mind. I think really just need to have a little time to let all this kind of settle and really
Good.
think about it going forward.
Well, you did very well, and you get 5 merits for being such a tough skin because I kind of beat on you a little bit, and you get one merit per point for your critiques. So go through and definitely add them to the Hall of Records, and
Okay.
I'm looking forward to your next critique. Well
So
done.
am I. Thank you.
Bye.